Hello, so this is going to be a long video. I have 8 books to get through. So it's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I have gone through my book collection and picked out a couple of books that I feel have something to do with mental health. Maybe the main focus. It might be set with patients that are struggling with mental health. Or it may just be that I feel like the main storyline could be helpful. There are two, possibly 3 books. I'm not 100% sure it's focused on mental health, but the setting and I remember some of the characters do having mental health issues, so I've still included them. They're all good books to read, so I recommend reading any of these. The first one is Tom Becker, While the Others Sleep. So this is actually like a young adult horror supernatural kind of book. It's not 100% to do with mental health. It just includes some mentally ill characters. So Alfie can't sleep. He's been sent to a sanatorium to get better, and it's a terrifying place, especially at night when everyone else is asleep. Alfie soon discovers that being awake is the most dangerous condition of all. You'll soon find out why, but don't expect to sleep afterwards. Because it's set in a sanatorium. Changing my sitting position. There are some characters that are mentally ill. So Alfie himself can't sleep, so he's got insomnia. But not for a reason you'll think. So that's my first book. It's not really much I can really say on that. Lying about last summer. So last summer Sky's sister died in a tragic accident. Now she's looking for escape from reality. Her parents think that a holiday camp for bereaved teens might help her to move on. At first camp doesn't seem so bad, but when Sky starts receiving tests from someone claiming to be her dead sister, she fears the past is about to surface. So this holiday camp, everyone has lost someone close to them, so there's a lot of how to deal with the death of someone close to you. I think she's got post-traumatic stress disorder because she saw her sister die. It's water, so her sister drowned in the swimming pool of her back garden. So now she struggles to go near pools or in pools due to flashbacks. So I really actually quite enjoyed that. I didn't think I would enjoy it as much as I did, which was a pleasant surprise. A Flash of Blue. So I haven't actually seen this anywhere on Tumblr. I bought it because, well, I thought it sounded really interesting. So Amber's messed up. She took something that wasn't hers. She never intended for anyone to die. Now she struggles through each day with a secret that no one must ever know. But when Amber finds herself in the arms of her dead brother's best friend, she believes she's found someone who needs her as much as she needs him. Only that's where the trouble really starts. If escape is what she's looking for, she'll have to think again. So, her brother died of a heart attack, but she blames herself because he always wore a lucky necklace, and she took that lucky necklace away from him, and on the day she was going to give it back, her brother passed away. So she's blaming herself for something that's totally, obviously not her fault. She couldn't save her brother, she couldn't stop him dying in any way. But still she blames herself. She starts struggling with what's welling up inside of her. Her parents don't really understand, so she turns to her brother's best friend, who is also struggling with things, and together they don't really help each other. She gets mixed up in a lot of trouble with drugs. They're kind of in a gang kind of thing, and there's a ringleader that makes them all do drugs and that. Yeah. It's a little bit messed up, and it was actually quite emotional, and I don't really get emotional at books. So, the next one comes with a trigger warning. There are many things wrong with this book. At the same time, it deals with mental health, just maybe not in the best of ways. It's a book that if you are having suicidal thoughts or you self-harm, you probably don't want to read. It's fans of The Impossible Life. Now, me and my friend have ranted about this book, about what we find wrong, but in the same way, I think it's good to read and understand how characters dealt with things in the wrong way. So, Myra is trying to pretend that she's a fully functioning human, rather than a girl who can't get out of bed for days on end. Jeremy is a painfully shy art nerd who has self-imposed isolation after an incident that ruined his last year of school, and Sebi is a charming gay foster kid who seems to carry sunlight around him. For Jeremy, it's as if he's always been expecting Sebi, though they've only just met. For Myra, she finally feels awake when she's with him. But Sebi has his own secrets, and it's only together that the three of them can fix their broken selves and live their impossible lives. First of all, I don't agree with having to rely on someone to feel that you're valid. It's difficult because I find if you get 3 people with depression, one starts spiralling, chances are another one's going to get triggered off of it and start spiralling themselves. So the way they've dealt with things isn't really the best. Probably actually made one of them worse. It did, in fact, actually make one of these worse. So Myra's obviously got depression. Sebi has got depression and actually turns to drugs. And the other 2 try to stop him and try to get him to understand how his behaviour is destructive. But at the same time, it really doesn't help the other 2. Jeremy is probably the only one that seems slightly stable? I don't know if stable's the right word. But his parents are gay, so he's got 2 dads, and that's the incident. So he just tries to deal with sexuality. Obviously Sebi's gay, so Jeremy tries to work out how he fits into the sexuality labels, which can also be kind of helpful if someone is struggling, but that one comes with a massive trigger warning. I think it actually has, it says contains adult themes. So the next book is difficult in the mental health kind of section, so it's Escape from Asylum. It's set in a building that used to be a mental asylum. No, I've got that back, it's the prequel, so it is in the mental asylum. So Ricky Desmond doesn't belong in the Brooklyn Asylum. His parents sent him here because they think he's a delinquent and that he can be cured, but Ricky knows there is no cure for what he has. Soon after he arrives, Ricky learns that being locked up against his will is the only beginning of his problems. Rumour has it that Brooklyn Warden authorises treatments that aren't exactly humane. That he's a butcher, a monster, and if the scream Ricky hears coming from the basement are any indication, the rumours are an understatement. Now, with the help of a nurse who feels just as trapped in Brooklyn as he does, Ricky must escape before the asylum claims his sanity. Set long before Dan, Abby and Jordan ever walked the hallways of the Brooklyn Asylum, back when it was still a functioning psych ward and not a dorm, Escape from Asylum is a mind-bending and scary instalment of the Asylum series that can stand on its own for new readers or provide missing puzzle pieces for the series fans. This book contains, it's probably a less creepy one, images that are really creepy, and some of them are surgical but show nothing too gory. They just add to the story, really. There's nothing in there, if I can remember, that's really, really triggering. There's some surgical equipment. I think that's about as bad as it gets. So Ricky has been sent because his parents think he's a delinquent and needs to be cured. He meets someone in there, I can't remember her name. It's been a little while since I've read this. Kay. That's it. He meets a lady called Kay, who is actually a transgender lady, but has obviously been sent there because her dad thinks that she can be cured and be the boy that she was born as. Again, this has some actual characters that are mentally ill and probably do need to be in an asylum. So it's not really to do with mental health, it's just set in a mental health place, which is why I wasn't too sure, but again, it's a really good book. It hits with the transgender characters, where she is fighting to be who she needs to be, whereas everyone else is fighting against her. The next one is The Hit. So, a new drug is out, everyone is taking it. Death. Take it and you'll have one amazing week to live. It's the ultimate high at the ultimate price. Adam is tempted. Life is rubbish, his girlfriend's over him, his brother's gone, and so what has he got to lose? Everything, as it turns out. So, there's this drug going around. It's called death for the ultimate reason that it eventually leads to death after 1 week, but you feel happy, you feel exhilarated, you feel like you're on top of the world, you can do anything, you don't really get tired, you don't really need to eat much. But as the week wears on, the effects start slowly losing. So Adam has taken the drug of death because his brother's gone, he's died, his parents are a little bit iffy with him, his girlfriend's left him, so he actually feels like he has nothing left to lose. So he takes death, plans to try and get his girlfriend back, tries to live life to the full. Actually turns out that although he's taken the drug death, which is kind of a way to commit suicide, that he finds it's not worth taking, that he wishes he could actually take it back. He tries finding an antidote for it. He really doesn't want to die. So when he thought he had nothing left to lose, and he was at first fully committed to this idea of taking the drug for one amazing week left, he soon turns it around and tries to find a way to get his life back. This one don't need much of a talking about, I actually did a whole video review. So if I was your girl, like everyone else, all she wants is to make friends and fit in, but Amanda is holding back, even from Grant, the guy she has fallen in love with. Amanda has a secret. At her old school she used to be called Andrew, and secrets will have a way of fun, and secrets always have a way of getting out. So, obviously, transgender people struggle with a lot of depression and anxiety, and this shows how Amanda went from being severely depressed to self-harming, to wanting to take her own life, to actually attempting to take her own life, and is slowly becoming to accept who she is and live in the life how she feels she has to in order to be happy. It shows the fight of how strong someone's willpower can be. So I'm going to leave it there because I've already done a full video. The next book I didn't actually pick up. My friend lent me 8 books and this was one of them, so I didn't pick them out. She picked them off her bookcase and gave me the one she thought I would like the best. So, The Mirror World of Melody Black. It all starts with these things. It all starts as these things sometimes do, with a dead man. He was a neighbour, not someone Abby knew well, but still, finding a body when you only came over to borrow a tin of tomatoes, that comes as a bit of a shock. At least it should. And now she can't shake the feeling that if she hadn't gone into Simon's flat, if she had had her normal Wednesday night instead, then none of what happened next would have happened, and she would never have met Melody Black. Apologise for a lot of stuttering there. So this whole book is set around depression, about how someone is spiralling, so She has her ups and her downs. She goes on a high, but it's a destructive high. She starts spending a lot of money. She starts drinking. It shows that although you have depression, it doesn't always come across as sadness or it doesn't always show in the right way. It can be happiness. It can be destructive happiness, where you're going to spending a lot, doing crazy things that you never would have done if you're mentally stable. So she gets up one day, thinks she's doing all this amazing stuff, but it's just the way her depression's coming out. So she's living a life that isn't really hers to live. It goes really, really wrong. She ends up calling her therapist, and she gets sent to a mental ward to help her to recover, to stop her spiralling so much, to stop her destructive behaviour. When it comes to books about depression, I always get annoyed that it's the same thing. That it's always someone gets depressed, starts self-harming and tries to kill themselves. Because it's not always that. It doesn't always show as that. It sometimes shows as pure happiness, but it's destructive happiness. It's the destructive behaviour. As someone myself who struggles from depression, I also go through these kind of stages. It's strange because you think you're on a high and you try to change things. You'll go out and you'll spend a lot of money as a way to cope, or you go out and drink a lot, or you try drugs, and just little things that will give you happiness for a short while. So she spends money on a dress that she can't really afford to buy, but because it's so brightly coloured, so bold, it turns heads in the streets. She feels brilliant because of the response she's getting, although she spent the money she doesn't actually have on a credit card that she can't afford to pay back on. It's little things like that that doesn't show in other stories, that shows that depression's just, it's not just a whole big black cloud. It's not a way of just sadness you can click straight out. It's deeper than that. It's harder than that. And I highly recommend this book for anyone who's suffering with depression, or someone who wants to understand the illness a little bit more. Also, if you have friends with depression and you want to help support them, maybe you can learn a few bits about this book. Although it's fiction, there are a lot of things in this book that are actually real, and it's gripping real. It's hard. It's the hard truth that depression isn't always just depths of sadness, curling up in a hoodie, laying in bed, not being able to get a bed. It's not all about crying. It's different things. So that is my last book, and sums up all the books that I have given for mental health and wellness. There are probably a few more books on my bookshelf. Like I said, there are 2 books in there which aren't ideally to do with mental health, but at the same time they kind of touch on some aspects of mental health. But they are all really good reads, and I highly recommend all of them. So, until my next video, I'll see you later.